What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Watch and Cut channel. So today we're going to do a wrap-up video for 2022, and I brought basically most of the stuff that I acquired this year, and I felt like I did a lot more in the watch world than I did kind of in the knife world. But
I also like to live dangerously.
I did acquire some pieces and I brought them out on the table. There might be one or two missing, but for the most part, this is pretty much everything that I bought this year. So I kind of separated slip joints over here. We got a lot more American made stuff here, and then some Russian and Chinese and so on and so forth. So here we go. So let's start off with this guy from the top. Now, this is a Northwoods knife. This is a Bear Lake. This is a 2022 release. And this one has a really cool set of scales on it. They call it Wheaties Burlap Micarta, which is pretty cool. So Northwoods Knives is a pretty hard to acquire knife because it's pretty exclusive only to knives shipped free, and the drops are very infrequent, and when they do drop, they go out pretty much instantly. So this year I was able to jump on a drop on one of these and pick myself up another Northwoods for my collection. I really like the blade shape on this one. It is high carbon steel, but you can see too they left the scaling on there, which I think is really cool. It's made by the same people who make the GEC knives, but these are basically a bit more high-end, a bit nicer on the fit and finish side and whatnot. Look at that sharpening choil.
Christ, I'm getting all emotional from it, you know?
There's a lot more extra little details when it comes to these. You can see the engraving on the blade with the etching for the Northwoods, made in the good old USA. Just a really nice bright set of scales. You see the arrow inlaid right there. It's pretty cool. I like the arrow shield. Looks good, and it's, you know, the most common, I would say, but looks really cool. So this is a nice little classic knife to kind of carry around. And then the next one is even less threatening. This is a tiny little CULTROTECH. Now this one's made of aluminum, and it's got these kind of fancy screws. I'm not sure if they're titanium, that would be my guess. And you can see the tiny little nail nick right in here. And this one, folks, is definitely a nail breaker. But here you go, the CULTROTECH slip joint. Very cool because it's got nice milling like they usually do. I think it's got a relatively comfortable handle, and it's got a very strong spring, so I like that. It's a nice blade too. It's the CULTROTECH Yan hook heat treat on this little guy as well with the L-Max. They didn't make very many of these. These were just kind of like a quick little production run, and I got this one from Jim Skelton.
1.3 ounces. You won't even know that's sitting down in your pocket, man. That is really lightweight. The shape of the frame is really nice. Reminds me of a GTC a little bit. I like the shape of the frame. I like the milling. Again, it's an aluminum frame.
He reviewed it, and and then he was done. What's kind of cool about this one is it does have like a crazy edge, just like all the other CULTROTECH stuff. That typical mirror polish edge. It's very thin, so it's a good cutter. It's very light because it's made of aluminum, and it's cool because you can take it apart. It's got screws to take it down. So overall, it's kind of a more slightly advanced slip joint. Non-threatening, but good size, nice and stout. I like this thing quite a bit. And it does have not one half stop like the Bear Lake does, but it's got kind of multiple steps to it, which I think is cool. So there's that guy. The next one is the CULTROTECH Slim, And this is another slip joint, actually featured recently in one of my other videos, my large knives video, because this is a humongous ass slip joint. Same thing, razor edge mirror. I mean, this thing's even more sharper than that other one right there. Really cool carbon fiber from Russia. Integrated finger choil makes it a lot safer because you got a nice part of the blade that's unsharpened to rest on. Good size knife, good size handle. Same thing, you can take this guy apart. Big lanyard tube right there. Nice back spring, a little bit of jimping for traction if you so choose to be further back. Yeah, just a really awesome knife. This one's only got 1/2 stop, so that's pretty cool. Cool knife from CULTROTECH I acquired this year. Now this one here is kind of funny. This is a SERGE leaf.
Jesus Christ, he's tiny.
And this is a tiny little slip joint. Very hard spring, so the fact that it's small, it's still very usable. Very sharp edge, M390 blade. I mean, I thought this thing was kind of neat, and it does have a pocket clip despite how tiny it is.
I've had bigger chunks of corn in my crap.
So you got a nice good ramp right over here. I wouldn't stand anywhere near the underside of it right here because this is really sharp. If you put pressure, it's gonna cut for sure. But overall, I think this is a good kind of push cut type knife. Very cool little tiny guy to take somewhere with you when taking a real knife is not acceptable.
Oh, behave.
This is kind of a cool novelty to bring out with you. Another one of the same example. Now, this is new to me, but these are definitely not new. They've been out for quite a while. This is another SERGE product. This is a production SERGE Claw Gen 2. Now, this one is a slip joint in essence, but you can see there's a little ball detent. So when it's in the closed position, it just falls into this hole right here.
Come again.
In the back of the blade, and then you can overcome it easily and get the blade into another one, and it locks into place. So very, you know, nice little fun little toy. You can use it to cut stuff. It is designed to be, you know, used. In other words, it is sharp. M390 again, but a cool little novelty that I picked up because I've been kind of digging the SERGE stuff quite a bit lately. So I don't know, I think they're pretty cool. Anyways, next thing was, I don't know, I saw this thing and I was sitting at work thinking, man, it'd be great to have a pocket knife in the drawer with, you know, a set of nail clippers. And this is what you got exactly right here, is a set of nail clippers integrated into a double detent slip joint.
But I'm a master debater.
It's got a little fingernail cleaner here. I don't remember if this thing had a file or not. No. Yeah, oh, it does have a file right back here. So you can really actually do some detail work on your nails with this knife.
Yeah, baby.
Let's open her up here. Now this one actually has a pretty nice blade. I like the fuller on it. It's just a very nice usable profile, and it is a hollow grind, you know. I do believe it's HCR13 MOV, which it is. And there you have it. Pretty cool knife coming from KERSHAW. I kind of like this pattern too. I haven't seen that on a lot of their knives. Very comfortable. Kind of wish it had an integrated finger choil like the other one, but otherwise it's a very nice little cutting tool. So that was more of just throw it in my desk. Now on to locking knives. This is a French knife, which I am born and made in France, so there you go. Every once in a while I like to try a knife from the motherland. Now this one had a lot of impressive things. First off, a lot of you guys know that, especially this last year, I got really hardcore into watches. So when I saw this knife with these acrylic pieces that have impregnated pieces of watch on them, I thought that was pretty darn cool. Yeah, it's just perfect for the knife and watch hobby guy, you know. So these are little gears and stuff from an automatic movement. Not sure which one they use. You can see some beautiful scroll work. This is all custom stuff. Even the knife right here. And this little pad right here actually acts like a little thumb rest. But the knife is kind of interesting when you open it up. When you look at it, the blade is so long, it actually protrudes further than the handle. So they have extended the back spacer. Another thing that's interesting about the back spacer is it's got jimping on it. And it'll all make sense in a minute. So when you open this guy up, here you can actually see this thing lifting up. It's like a back spring on a back lock. And boom, it is locked into place. So just kind of like a traditional back lock. However, this one's got the release in the back. So kind of do a teeter-totter effect on the back spring right here. You'll lift this up and basically it unlocks the blade and you can close your knife. So very nice knife. I'm a sucker for the Persian style blades. This is the Luthier model. Really nice knife. So something a little bit more gentleman, I guess you could say. So very cool, nice acquisition, something a little different, you know, for this year. Now let's get into this row. So the next one we got is a CQC13 that I acquired from the Acuminous Edge, which is my coworker. He's a huge Microtech and Marfione collector, but he has been known to collect a few Emersons. He's been doing a liquidation of his collection lately, and I think he got rid of most of his stuff, but you can always hit him up on Instagram if you're you can always hit him up on Instagram if you're interested in some of his stuff. So this is what they call the Po' Boy custom CQC13. Po' Boy kind of refers to the whole fact that it resembles a Emerson hand ground custom, but it's not. It's a production that somebody's put some titanium bolsters on. You can see these wood handles, which are amazing. There is this zircotite clip, although I kind of want to slim this thing down. And then you got this nice thumb disc made of mokutai. So this is a really nice knife. I'm not a huge Emerson guy, but when he said he was going to sell this one, I kind of jumped on it because A, it was a great price, and B, I really like the way this one was modded. Now, one really unusual thing for this thing is that it is completely centered. And that is really unusual for an Emerson knife. Another thing that's really unusual for an Emerson knife is the action. It's very, very smooth. It is too smooth for an Emerson. So the secret to the whole thing is this thing has bronze washers. There's a guy who makes aftermarket bronze washers specifically for Emersons, and it completely transforms the knife. So this CQC13, although I don't usually buy already modded knives, this one was from a good friend and it was really well modded. I love the blackwood handles. So anyways, very cool CQC13, another Emerson to add to the collection. Now this one here, we have something very familiar to everybody, although it's got a bit of a weird blade shape.
Sorry.
The nice bright orange handles indicate kind of what kind of steel this one is. This is an XHP model, and this is the WHARNCLIFF blade. Now, I did finally acquire the screws from Adrian to do the full mod project, which will be coming up really soon in a video. But I've been really enjoying just carrying it the way it is because of the nice bright orange handles. I do plan to get the other blade shape that I don't have, which is the one with the Emerson wave. So if anybody has one, please let me know. I am kind of actively searching for a decent deal on a PM2 with an Emerson wave. So anyways, let's move right along. So next one is the one that I acquired at the knife show this year. You guys can go check out that video. This is the ProTech Malibu, but this is the Operator Edition. The Operator Edition comes completely blacked out. It comes also with a tritium insert that always glows. Actually, not always, but it will continuously glow from 15 to 20 years approximately, depending on what kind of tritium they use. Now, one thing that I think this knife is really amazing for is the action. For a button lock type knife, it's got a really quite cool action. When you actually flip this guy over, usually button locks are not always a great success. There's not usually a good strong detent feel to them. But this one, you can see my fingers already kind of loading up here pretty well, so you can get a really nice snap out of this one. Action is really amazing. Another thing that's cool about this one too is the handle. It's really quite compact for what it is, and I like the decent amount of blade stock that comes out relatively thin at the bottom, so I think that's pretty cool right there. Very nice blade shape. They come in different ones. This isn't the standard. This is kind of like more the reverse Tonto. But this is the ProTech Malibu Operator Edition. Very nice knife. Nice piece made from America. And what's cool about this one, you know, with a lot of ProTech knives, they're automatics. This is one of their few manual knives, so that's cool for us California people. Next one up here is a ginormous thick boy right here.
And try to lose some weight, for God's sake. Yes, sir!
This is a old school RONIN from REDHORSE KNIFEWORKS. Now this one I bought because I'm trying to kind of gather all the mid-tech blades from Ed. So this one here was something I thought was really quite neat looking. I actually like this. This really looks like a real knife. It almost reminds me of the Bulldog from Emerson Knives. It's got a nice, very thin lock bar here, and this clip actually bent upwards works really, really well. It goes very easy under the pants. Nothing gets caught up. This clip actually works perfect, which is another really unusual attribute for REDHORSE KNIFEWORKS. It's got some nice barrel spacers, and I like the simple use of that. That works just fine. Simple construction, a lot of chamfering on it, so it is very comfortable, but it is very chunky. Now you can see this one is a chisel grind, so it's basically a true chisel blade grind too. It's only ground out on this side, and it's got kind of this slightly mirrored edge, but it's not very sharp. As a matter of fact, I plan to send it back to him to kind of have it match blue like my other two REDHORSE knives. Maybe see if he can do something about this lock stick. But maybe also add a little bit more of an edge to it. But otherwise, I think this is a really cool knife. It almost kind of has like that Robert Carter BBM kind of size and blade sitting up so high. You know, it is very much one of these like kind of mid-size, compact-ish kind of knives. So I really like this one. Definitely plan to make a real nice knife out of it when Ed fixes a few things. The next one up on the list here is a BENCHMADE. Now this knife is quite special because this is the first knife I've ever bought myself as a premium knife. This is the first knife that I decided I was going to start collecting knives. And I spent a little time shopping for some titanium and some M390 because back in 2012, 2013, you know, those were like the things that were a little bit harder to find. This knife was terrible. It had terrible centering, terrible action, almost zero detent. The clip was only a tip down configuration, but I sent it to Rotten Design John, and he did a beautiful regrind on it. And this is something I actually received this year. And this was actually a really, really fun project. So John did an outstanding job. He moved the clip over. He kind of did a new little bit of a finish on the knife itself to kind of make it look newer. Very nice swedge, very thin hollow grind on this guy. And he changed the detent to ceramic, which was pretty cool. Didn't even ask him to do that. So the knife now is snappy. It feels like a custom knife, but it's a production that's been completely modded out by John from Rotten Design. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with John from Rotten Designs, this is the knife he's most well known for. This is the Evolution model. This one here is built by Custom Knife Factory, but John does make his own full customs. They're very rare, they're very expensive, they're very hard to get, but these are actually a pretty awesome thing to grab as well. Now they sell out almost instantly. I would recommend getting on the Custom Knife Factory mailer if you want one. We got this beautiful flat zirconium backspacer here. Here's the Zircuti pocket clip. Kind of large, but very cool, goes with the knife. You got the matching pivot collar and kind of a black wash on the titanium with what almost appears like a bark finish, but you can't really feel it. You can only kind of see the milling marks. The blade is hand rubbed satin finish. It is beautiful. It's got a very pronounced tip that works very well for knives. It's got a very nice relationship to the edge with your hand. Hangs really, really low. Very comfortable to use as a cutting tool. Can be held in many different ways, and it's got a very crazy action, which you would expect from any custom knife factory. So Rotten Design, kind of these two guys right here, kind of tell his story. The next one down here is the MILLIT knives, TORRENT. Now, this is more of an example of me buying a knife that I've been chasing for years, but I wanted the right one. I wanted a fancy one, and I've seen over the years MILLIT making some pretty fancy TORRENTs. But this one right here has got pretty much everything. You got a rose Damascus steel blade with a full Damascus lock side, and you got a blue anodized titanium clip with a blue and purple anodized and milled titanium face on top of a stainless steel liner, which just gives you a really nice effect. It's on bearings. This is a TJ Schwartz design. Very nice action. The detent is a little bit softer, so it does like take a minute for me to kind of get used to it. But overall, it's just a beautiful little small dress knife. Very appealing to look at, but you know, not very threatening because it's not very big. So very cool knife to carry around and show to friends and coworkers. So now talking about knives and coworkers, this one's probably one you're not going to want to show your coworkers. This is the ATROPOSE design Trapper. This one was kind of interesting just because it was a very different mechanism, and I love the blade. It was really ground thin, very sharp in K110 steel, which I heard is similar to D2. It's got a titanium clip here. Yeah, made in Russia. Very, very cool knife overall. Definitely plan to try something else from this maker at some point. He does a lot of butterfly knives and cool things like that. Next one I'm going to bring up is this guy right here. This is the Real Steel. Oh man, which one is this one? This is the Ivan B design Real Steel. That guy right there. So I actually already own one of these in micarta, in like a red micarta. It's kind of a special edition, but when I saw these scales, this is the new carbon aluminum scales. And I just thought this knife looked pretty damn cool. I know it's a great design. Ivan B did a great job with this one. I actually also own a custom version of this one made by Kalishnikov Knives from Ukraine. So big fan of the design. This is called the ROKOT, now that I remember. And this one's got a white G10 backspacer, blacked out blade, N690 steel, so pretty good steel, not cheap stuff, which is kind of cool. Very smooth, but again, just super cool scales. I just really like the way this stuff looked. So I wanted to kind of see this material in person, and this was a perfect excuse to try that. So the next one here is a Brian Nadeau design. This is the mini Tempest front flipper from Riyadh Knives actually built this, but this is a Sharp by Design brand knife. They do come in a couple different blade shapes. I went with the Bowie clip point, which I thought was pretty cool with the fuller right there. And we did do this one in Damasteel. It's got a beautiful clip point with a nice sharpening choil right here. It's a nice slim handle. And you can see dark matter blue carbon fiber on this one. The clip is kind of integrated. It's a clamshell construction titanium knife. And it is also a bolstered lock, which is kind of cool. You got a front flipper tab right here, and you got plenty of clearance to the finger right here. So he did design this really quite well. I don't think this knife actually quite took off as well as some of his Typhoons and other designs, but it did do pretty well overall. And I think it was a good addition to my collection because I do have some of the other ones that kind of go with it. Next one here is the NORTHARMS SCAHA. Now this one here is one of the first set ever to be in fat carbon scales. So I actually sent the boys over at NORTHARMS some fat carbon, and we made these knives. It was a run of 5 of them, and this is the Dark Dunes carbon fiber from fat carbon. Pretty cool stuff. I really like the way it shimmers, and I like how it kind of looks wavy, like it's got texture to it. But it is very smooth and very comfortable in the hand. And this is probably one of the last runs you'll see in S35VN because they're moving to MagnaCut after that. But just like any NORTHARMS, just crazy action. And amazingly light. It's just the super knife that the SCAHA is, just a little bit more fancy in handle scales. I will say though, they did pay a lot of attention to these. These were really well QC'd. The action was just a little extra good. The fit and finish, everything was just a little extra good, and I've owned 4 of these. Next one here is the Arno Bernard MAMBA flipper. This is a knife I acquired very early on this year, or this last year, since now we're in 2023. But this is a beautiful knife that kind of almost brings a Sebenza inspiration with something else. It is its own kind of unique knife. It does come out of South Africa, but it does kind of reminds me of the Chris Reeve product by quite a bit. But nice flipper, and we have some ivory from Warthog. Actually, this is Warthog Tusk. So it was quite difficult to get this where I live because it is not legal to ship. You can have it, but outside countries can't import it in here, so I had to have it kind of bounce around a little bit to get to me, which is fine.
Danger's my middle name.
So this is the Arno Bernard Mamba flipper. Beautiful knife coming out of South Africa. Now the next one I'm going to grab here is going to be this guy. This is the Mini Buster by We Knives, and this is designed by Snex Tan. Now this one has a very unusual type integrated detent system, and that's what makes this knife a little bit unique and special. He did do a collaboration of the full-size one with Hoback many years ago, but as you can see, this one is a good size for me. And this is more of their recent release with this kind of flame finish over the titanium. I thought that looked pretty cool, so I went ahead and picked up a Mini Buster from Snex. I'll dig more into this one when I take it apart. I'm sure there's a lot of interesting stuff to look at when it comes to this knife. Even in the milling and everything, it's already very interesting to look at. We Knives does do an extremely good job, especially the last recent years. I've been really impressed with their stuff. But again, you got an amazing designer that's kind of teaming up with them. And speaking of which, this is his other more recent remake of his custom. This is the Vision R. This is the We Made production version, and this one has some Damasteel blade, which you can see. It looks really, really nice. Kind of some black titanium with bronze hardware, which is really cool. And this is his Super Lock, which you can see right here where the pin just kind of slips right in and out of that little half cut in the back of the blade tang. So that's kind of how it works. It does kind of come up and over the stop pin right here. And you can see it's actually spring loaded. So kind of a cool, unique design, which I thought was fun. The knife is incredibly thin. And this one here has an integrated pocket clip. Now this was really cool for me because these customs are already almost impossible to get. You have to know somebody, you have to, you know, he's got to kind of analyze your collection before he decides to sell you one. There's all kinds of stipulations with this maker, so it kind of made me not really want to chase one that bad anyways. And then they never came with a pocket clip. But now these production ones have a pocket clip integrated, just kind of like the way John Graham used to do his pocket clips on the Razels. I think that is a really awesome way to go. The knife does sit kind of angled and pinched on your pants, but it works pretty well.
Right.
Especially because I only carry my knife in my one pocket and nothing else in it. So it's not really a big issue for me. But yes, this is the Vision R, and a really cool knife nonetheless. Now the last one that I've been avoiding this whole time showing you. is the most recent acquisition in my collection. This is the AQUATIC F3 from SHIROGOROV knives. This is a special edition knife. It's very limited. Beautiful knife, beautiful carbon fiber, a little bit thick on the build, but just a lot of details when it comes to this knife. Multi-row bearing system, and it's got kind of like the oversized neon zero profile blade. That is the most recent acquisition I've had, and probably the coolest knife I bought all year.
No, I heard that somewhere.
This one has Van X37, some pivot colors, all the carbon fibers just beautiful with a two-tone of aquatic blue with some deep blue integrated and swirled in there. Got a beautifully milled titanium clip. Liners are all titanium, blue backspacer gear pattern, and a beautiful lanyard that honestly drives me crazy because I'm not a lanyard guy. But yeah, as far as it goes with SHIROGOROV knives, this is really fancy, and I'm very excited to actually have gotten to acquire one of these. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is my acquisitions of 2022. 2023 won't be bringing much else different. We'll continue to kind of mix things up, some fancies, some productions and things like that. Hopefully I can figure out how to pump my output of videos a little bit more, which I've been working on a little bit lately, but we'll see what that brings. Now, I did do a hardcore focus on watches this past year, but this year 2023 I'll probably be kind of focusing more back on knives a little bit more, finishing up my mod projects, kind of clearing house of stuff that perhaps doesn't belong in the collection anymore and somebody else can enjoy it, and maybe combining things to kind of upgrade a few things. We'll see what this year brings. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you guys all on the next one.